I wasn't recording any of it, just so you know.
That's good. That's good.
Which one am I gonna go with?
Show me your bits.
When you take a shower, what's the etiquette for washing your legs?
Washing your legs. Well, here's what I do. I hit the problem areas.
Mm-hmm.
I wash scalp every other day.
Mm-hmm.
Then every day, it's face, pits, belly button, private sections.
Yeah, I think...
And then feet.
I think technically what you're supposed to do... Like, not technically, but... I'm pretty... I heard this from, I think, an episode of Adam Ruins Everything. How credible that is. But really, when you shower, it's your pits and your bits.
Yeah.
That's how I like to say it.
Yeah.
Those are the problem areas.
Because I heard everything else just dries out your skin. It's not good for your skin.
Yeah, and you just basically...
Like,
like with your hair, you just got to rinse yourself off.
Mm-hmm.
I understand if you're particular about your hair and you want it to be able to do certain things and, like... look a certain way, then yeah, absolutely shampoo your hair every day, every other day, whatever you want.
Yeah, I think if you use a lot of product,
you're
supposed to.
Yeah, I shampoo my hair because I like it being as manageable as possible, and I wash my whole body because I like how it feels. I know
it is a pampering thing. I like when I like cut the grass or something like that. I'm covered in that gasoline stink and the fresh grass all over me.
I like knowing that my whole body smells like my soap.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I see this thing all the time. People online, mainly dudes, who are like, I just let gravity do the work. If you wash your upper body, the water runs down and it washes your legs. And that drives me insane.
Yeah.
Here's my analogy for that. It's like saying, if you're doing the dishes and you wash a plate while holding it over another plate, you just wash 2 dishes, baby. That's not true at all. That's not how that works.
Fair.
You gotta scrub. If you think you're washing, you gotta scrub.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's fair.
Men out there, wash your legs. Unless you're an all-natural guy who just does his bits and pits, and that's totally fine as well. So that's that one off the list.
There you go.
Really lead it into anything, but...
No, I didn't really get over it, but that's fine. Sometimes they can be non sequiturs.
Would you like another one?
Yeah, show me your bits.
Why do you think Kiss was ever popular? Kiss sucks ass. Like, plain and simple, they got the one song that I like, and that's it.
Well, it's obviously theatricality, but how did they get the money for all the pyro and stuff?
Exactly. Like, do you think they were playing bars, ass Kiss, and like the makeup and stuff like that?
Are they from Detroit Rock City?
No, the song I believe is written about some kids who died on their way to see a Kiss show in Detroit.
Oh, okay. Where are they from?
I don't know. Fucking Boise, Idaho, or some dumb shit like that, probably.
I bet it's New York.
Maybe. Were they 70s? Yeah, they were the 70s,
yeah, they were
right?
70s, yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess they were kind of quote-unquote scary at the time.
Were they scary?
I think so. They were like spitting blood and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what's-his-face was dressed up like a demon, but also, no, I can't imagine a band like Kiss playing in a bar.
Yeah.
And like their music's not good enough.
I bet you I know what happened.
What happened?
They showed up to a bar one time like that. Some promoter saw them. They were like, nah, this isn't bar. This needs to be in front of a stadium. It's got to be like one of those old school stories like that where you know, like or not even that old school, even Justin Bieber just being at Walmart recording videos on iPhones or whatever, and then whoever the fuck saw it. Who was the guy who discovered Justin Bieber?
Usher.
Yeah, Usher. Yeah. It's got to be like one of those stories where like you just like...
Actually, I think it was, from what I know about Kiss, my dad's a big Kiss fan, so I know a lot about Kiss. I think it was Gene Simmons who did all that. And also, from what I know, their like albums didn't do well, but their live shows did, and then their live albums did really well. But like, where do you start with that?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't understand how you get off the floor. Like, I know what works about Kiss, but I don't know how you get that off the floor, which I guess is where Gene Simmons deserves his props.
Huge piece of shit, though. I hate that guy.
I have heard awful things.
Yeah.
Try to trademark the birthday song or something like that?
He's got a trademark on OJ when referring to orange juice.
I guess that's how you get it off the ground.
I guess.
Also had a deal with WCW during the late 90s.
Did he?
Yeah. Eric Bischoff threw a bunch of money at him to have a live Kiss concert on WCW.
Yeah.
Was one of the worst rated episodes they had in terms of viewership. Also... you're
like 20 years too late for this.
Yeah. And also had a character named the Kiss Demon that was just dressed up like Gene Simmons that would wrestle.
Cool.
He was contractually obligated to be in a main event. And the guy who played the Kiss Demon actually, or no, I think it's Gene Simmons in his book, wrote that during, like, I can't remember what it was. This is entirely fake news. Don't listen to me. The story's right, but where it happened is not. Like at like Ozfest or some shit like that, like in Florida or something like that. He just talks about being in his hotel room and Linda and Vince McMahon coming to talk to him about the deal before Eric Bischoff did, but they couldn't come to an agreement. So that's why he went to WCW, because WCW was just throwing money at people at the time. So there you go.
Also, they were in Tony Hawk Underground, which is insane. I don't think those fan bases have any overlap.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, again, I guess props to Gene Simmons, but how do you work out either of those deals? How do you convince someone that your audience for Tony Hawk's Underground or wrestling is also the Kiss audience? Who is the Kiss audience? I have friends who like Kiss.
Do you?
Then they do like tribute shows and shit dressed as Kiss. Right?
Are they our age?
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
That sucks. Sorry.
It's got to be like a Grateful Dead thing where like the vibes
maybe
trump the
music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say though, I Was Made for Loving You kicks ass. Such a good song.
I'll also say Juan Waters. I don't know if you're familiar. Juan Waters. While we're on wrestling, might as well. I have a lot of respect for Juan Waters. Super inspirational. I got the chance to see him at Third Man Records just last night. And
sorry, I thought Juan Waters was a Kiss song when you started talking.
No. Juan Waters is a artist signed to Captured Tracks. Should still be. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But he's from Uruguay.
Okay.
Used to live with Mac DeMarco.
Okay.
Mac DeMarco was also on Captured Tracks before starting his own record label.
Also from Uruguay. Not a lot of people know that.
But yeah, great. Yeah, super, super cool. Love Juan Waters. Shouts out Juan Waters. But apparently huge wrestling fan. Didn't know that. So he primarily does like acoustic stuff. There's some full bandish stuff. But when the show started last night, the lights went down and John Cena's theme song played.
Cool.
And he came out and he's like just wearing an oversized shirt and an oversized pant, like khaki kind of a thing, and it's like tucked in. And he's wearing like a bolo, and he's like an older guy, maybe like 35, almost 40, very thick accent. And he just starts playing with his little guitar or whatever, and it's great. It's very good. And I don't want to go on for too long. This has to do with wrestling, but first I just want to talk about the show. I was really genuinely pleased by the show. Did a great job of making it a show and not just going to see a concert kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And did it effortlessly. After the second song or something like that, he was just like, do you guys want me to keep playing or do you guys want me to talk some or whatever? And they're like, talk. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'm trying not to talk so much in my shows. He's like, you know, I live in New York, but I'm kind of living more in Uruguay now. And, you know, I'm getting to be a little bit closer with like my uncle. And it's kind of funny because like, you know, my parents moved me to New York because they thought, oh, wow, you know, America, land of opportunity. This will be great for my kids. He's like, and now I'm getting older and I'm realizing that's not really the case. So I'm going back to Uruguay and my parents live here now. So they're a little disappointed. He's like, but I've been spending a lot of time with my uncle and it's been great. You know, I'm spending the night at the house and stuff like that. And one time he told me very seriously, we're having a very serious talk. And he was telling me, you know, like, Juan, like you have such great songs. Like you talk way too much at your shows. Just play your songs, you know? And that got a big laugh. And he just kept bringing that up every now and again. Like, you know, like he'd finish like 2 or 3 songs. He'd be like, I don't know if I should listen to my uncle or if I should listen to you guys, you know? And then he'd tell stories about like, you know, he's like, it's weird to see how things change or whatever. Like Detroit, for example, you know, there have been times in New York where like not that many people live there. Like, you know, sometimes the streets feel a little bit empty and then suddenly everybody lives here again. And he's like, same thing with Detroit. He's like, the last time I was here, I remember, you know, the buildings were like boarded up and there was just nobody on the street or whatever. And he was like, and also my friend was driving on the sidewalk. But so that was kind of an experience. I've never done that before. But anyways, then like halfway through the acoustic thing, people just start filing on stage and filling out in the second half as like a full band thing. And it was great. But the thing that I did, like I was talking to my friend at the show and he was saying, oh yeah, you didn't know that? Juan Waters and like his whole crew, they're like really big wrestling fans. And yeah, so just earlier today I was watching the music video for his song Sanity or Not, and the music video is like an ode homage to Andy Kaufman's bit in the 70s where he was the greatest world's like women's wrestler ever. Yeah. The whole time Juan's fighting like his female friends and whatnot, and then like the music video ends though, and it's just them like looking at a wrestling magazine and being like, oh, look at that, Shawn Michaels doing that backflip, and then being like, oh dude, look at Hulk Hogan's face here. It's very, very funny. So anyways, the only connection that had to the conversation we've had so far is I mentioned WCW, and then that made me think of Juan Waters, who, like I said, just want to give a huge shout out to. I remember at one point thinking, I was just watching it and thinking, like, this is probably the closest I'll ever get to having seen something like Daniel Johnston, almost. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just because it's so, like, honest and simple, but, like, cutting. There were even a couple of points during the set where he was talking about that, where he was like, he's like 10 or 15 years I've been doing this now. He's like... and he's like, and it's great that I get to bring it around the world, and it seems to like, affect people all over, that all kinds of people respond to the message. He's like, because sometimes, I think about, because of how like personal and like vulnerable it is, like maybe I shouldn't do this anymore, So I don't know. It was really moving is all I mean to say. It was a really, really good show. And I shook his hand as well. Very cool. I did my classic thing. I don't know if I've ever told the story before, but one time I was in Red Bank. I was at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, and by no means is anybody that works at the Secret Stash a hero of mine necessarily, but for some reason I was starstruck a bit. There's a show on AMC, or was rather, called Comic Book Men. It's about Kevin Smith's childhood friends running the comic book shop that he has in Red Bank, New Jersey. Q from Impractical Jokers was supposed to be on the show, but the contract with AMC conflicted with the True TV thing, so he couldn't. But he's a childhood friend of all those guys, and is on the Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast with Walter and Brian and a couple other guys. I don't think Ming's really on that, and I don't remember the other guy's name. But anyways, there was a point where I saw Walter Flanagan, who's the kid, the real life man that Randall is based on, and is also a comic artist who drew like both of Kevin Smith's Batman comics, which I have not read. Like I said, I really don't know this guy other than like kind of from the podcast, kind of from the TV show. Yeah, and for some reason when I saw him, I was like, oh my God. And like I left, and like I was kind of talking about it to my then girlfriend, and she was like, you should go back and say something. I was like, all right, fine. So I did. And I just went in and I like put my hand on it, and I was like, Walter? And I was just like, thank you. And he was just absolutely dumbfounded. He's like, what the fuck? Like just looking at me like, yeah. Same thing with Juan Waters. My Cam was doing sound that night. Cam was talking to Juan, and I put my hand on the small of their back, and then I shook their hand, and then I turned to Juan, and I just looked him dead in the eye, shook his hand, and said, thanks. Thank you, and then walked away.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. What else do you say? I feel like that's nice. That's tasteful. You don't... Yeah,
every time I've met someone famous or slightly famous, I always do something small like that. Like I'll go up to them and be like, oh, hey, big fan, love your stuff. Goodbye. And that's it. Like I don't... Like in my head, I'm like, that'd be cool if I got a picture or something like that, but I cannot imagine in a million years going up to somebody being like, can I get a picture?
Yeah.
It always just feels weird. Like I don't want to have that much of an interaction. But I will say, this is an experience we shared together. One of the coolest moments of my life. For a while, it was a really cool story. A band that will not be named.
Yes.
We met after a show, and they were looking for a place to stay afterwards. Mm-hmm. We're like, bro, we just moved into a new place. Mm-hmm. But don't have anywhere for you to sleep besides the ground. But you could do that. And they're like, yeah, definitely. And we
smoked up and ate pizza and drank
for like 12 hours. Yeah. It was like an ungodly amount of weed. Like I've never been a big smoker. Mm-hmm. Like I don't even do it anymore, but I didn't want to look bad in front of these guys. And we just stood in our kitchen for, not a joke, 12 hours. And there wasn't a minute that passed that somebody wasn't passing around a blunt. And I was like, it's the only time I've been high enough in my life that, like, I closed my eyes and I was, like, seeing cartoon shit. It was insane.
That'd be a great segue if I didn't want to tell my friend's story. I have a friend.
I know, in the middle of saying that, I was like, I can tie that into Roger Rabbit. Sorry, go on.
I'm going to try. But anyways, he's met Mac DeMarco a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And Mac DeMarco's a very inspirational person in his life. And I guess when he had first moved here to Detroit, with his girlfriend, they went to a Mac DeMarco show, and he actually had like a, like when the band was like very DIY, like an album that I think, what is it called? I think like it's like Make Out Videotape or something like that. I can't remember what the fuck the name I'm not that deep of a Mac DeMarco fan. I'm sure it's good stuff. I've just never listened to it. But he had this like obscure kind of thing that was very limited run or ever, and he was talking about how, Mac had like a swarm of people around him at the end of the thing, and he's like, and I'm not shitting you. I had the thing, and he like saw it in my hand, and he like literally parted all of the people going like Mac, and he was like, where did you get that kind of a thing? And he was like, I don't know, I found it, whatever, that kind of thing. He was like, that's insane. He's like, does it still have the insert and stuff like that? Yada yada yada. And he's like, nah, it doesn't have that. He's like, damn, that kind of a thing. And he's like, and then a little while after that, he was like, he ended up following me on Instagram.
Yeah.
And messaged me and was like, hey, could you scan that and send it to me, kind of a thing. And he's like, and so I did, but also he was like, I took a nice scan of it and blew it up and like put it on like a t-shirt or something like that, or a poster or whatever he did. And he was like, so then again, I saw Mac DeMarco a little bit later, and I had the thing, and he saw it, and again, he parted it like, and then he just came over, and he was like, it was crazy. He was like, it was forever. He was like, the cover of it looks like the cover of This Old Dog, where it's just got all this like goofy, cartoony shit all over it. And he was like, he just stood there forever, like pointing out every little thing and explaining what it was. And my friend was like, and he didn't really like express it well, because I could tell that he was like overwhelmed by the moment, but like the basic sentiment that he was like trying to get across to me, which I understood very deeply and it was very profound, was just like, thank you for giving this back to me.
Oh, that's very cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just as a memory, just that thing where he's like, wow, like I really never thought I'd see this again, and it's all coming back because of this thing you found,
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a great story.
It is.
Yeah. It reminds me also of an Open Mike Eagle lyric that I like a lot. I don't remember contextually having a lot to do with the bars that surround it, but it's just the line where he says, if you remember the moment, come here and shake my hand.
No. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I'd love to try to tie this into Roger Rabbit, but I got more. I keep thinking about more stories from the story I was just telling. When it sucks so much. It sucks less for us than people who are actually affected by it, but it sucks so much of how many bands got exposed in the Me Too era. Which, for good measure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, God damn, why is there such a fucking concentrated amount of this?
Yeah, but like, I have two other bands to mention in the story.
Yeah. And
I don't want to say their names because I'm not sure, But, this first band that Sedan replaced, I remember, to be fair, just one of them sucks. The rest of them, chill dudes.
Mm-hmm.
I think they started some side projects.
Yeah.
They're good. I like them. I'd like to support them. But I remember, do you remember a friend of ours also being there? Just making an ass out of himself the entire time. And kind of us too.
Was he?
Yeah.
I don't remember offhand, just because I was so like, kind of like, holy shit, this band is just in the kitchen eating pizza with me.
Like, I remember...
I'm just talking about Donnie Darko with two other guys who seem to love Donnie Darko.
Exactly. Like, that kind of stuff was happening. Like, I was talking to one of them about, like, this really obscure book I read in middle school, and he had also read it, and we're like, oh, bro, fuck it, I don't think I've met another person who has read this book, and we're talking about it. But I also remember
them showing us demos of what would become that next album.
Yeah.
And being underwhelmed at the time, which is funny, because I actually do like that album.
Yeah.
But I just remember being in the kitchen, and it happens all the time, I feel like, even with my musician friends. Even when they release projects, like when it finally comes out, I'm like, oh yeah, that's hot shit. But like sometimes they'll be like, check out this demo on my phone, and I'm like, yeah, dude, keep it up. Like, I don't know. There's just something about like the demo on the phone that's just it doesn't blast you the right way.
Yeah, no, they were playing it through our Bluetooth speaker, but I remember listening to it, and of course our friend making an ass out of himself and saying it's just some dumb garbage shit, and them looking kind of disappointed in what he was saying, and me, I was again so high, like couldn't even register what the music was, but I remember being like, no, this just sounds like a logical evolution of you guys.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like your last stuff, but it sounds like what you should be doing next. And I like it. And they're like, oh, cool, thanks, man. And just super high. Me was just like, oh, you nailed that. These guys love you now. But I remember, that happened. And then a few months later, another band that I won't name was playing somewhere. And you guys went to go see them. And me and my roommate, I was living with 3 guys. I was living with 2 guys. And one of the roommates and you went to go see this other band. And that band also needed a place to stay. And I remember getting a call from my roommate being like, broken fucking, I can name this band because they didn't actually stay at my house. So they're like, broken fucking Prince Stadium and the Hyena, come over and stay. And I was like, bro, it's Tuesday. No, I have to work tomorrow. And I was my other roommate was there on the phone with me too. And he was like, yeah, no, absolutely not. And my roommate on the phone being like, I get that, I understand. And just the most drunk Chris I've ever heard in the background being like, fuck you, dude, come on. You gotta. And me being like, Chris, you don't live here. No. And you're like, you fuck you, dude. You have to do this. I was like, Chris, you live somewhere. Invite them to your place. And you're like, no. No, they got to stay at your house, man. And just being so mad at you.
To be fair, at that time, I was living probably either A, at my mom's, or B, at an apartment that had bad cockroaches. Would not have been good to have it.
Your apartment was, you were at that apartment, I remember. Yeah. It was bigger than my house, though. Yeah. So I was like, no, that makes perfect sense. Send them there.
Yeah. Speaking of, I mean, sometimes it's rugged on tour. It is rugged on tour. I won't name locations or people or anything like that, but one time with Zilch, we stayed at a house, just like 7 uncleaned cat litter boxes in there. It wasn't a room in the house where you couldn't, like, just barely breathe, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sucks.
It was disgusting. Otherwise, just odd in general. The whole thing had like a damp doily, you know what doily is? A kind of doily vibe to it. Like everything was like, young, hip, like thrifted, but specifically like old lady, like your grandma's house kind of shit, like with just like porcelain dolls everywhere. And also someone was definitely like on acid or shrooms in the living room, just like being a maniac watching Seinfeld and just laughing. And like I just took a melatonin and I was like, okay, see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then it was even more awful in the morning because I couldn't unlock my car. The key fob, the battery had died, so we had to walk to like a Dollar General, buy the battery for it, then walk a mile back, and then we were finally fucking out of there. Also, 1 million cats, obviously.
Yeah. I was
Hence
gonna
the
say,
7 kitties.
I'd like to think that there were 7 litter boxes that are full, but just 1 cat.
No, there was a lot of cats. And there was one dying cat who didn't leave the top of this like kitchen table thing. He was just up there not doing well and hanging out. There's also a comically large cat, Garfield, even bigger than Cooper.
Wow. Can't even imagine.
Yeah, cats are often cartoons.
Yeah. No, I wanted to tell one more story, but fine.
Go ahead. No, you too. Fine.
I could also, it also might be a story you might not want me to tell, but you saying that guy being on acid or watching Seinfeld reminded me of the first time you did acid.
Uh-huh.
Can I tell this story from my point of view?
Yeah, that's fine.
You had acid. I don't remember where you got it.
I got it from Megan. I was trying to convince our friend. I was trying to convince our friend to do it with me, but he was pulling a U about having a band stay at the house. And he just kept going like, no, not tonight. Like maybe in a month or something like that. Like yada, 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 something like that. I'm like, dude, it's on its way. This is the time.
Yeah. And then, it got delivered to you. And you were trying to get all of us to do it with you. And we were all like...
Nobody else wanted it.
Yeah, we were like, it's 9 p.m. later. Chris, we'll do it another day.
Yeah.
And you were so dead set on it. You're like, I'm going to do it by myself.
Yeah.
We're all like... I don't know that much about acid.
Yeah.
I think that's a bad idea. Yeah. And you're like, nah, I'm just going to do it.
Even worse, an hour later when I wasn't high yet, Megan, classic. Everybody always does this. They're like, she literally said to me, it's probably bum acid. You should just go ahead and try to take the second one and feel something.
Yeah.
So then I was on 2 tabs of acid alone. You
absolutely were, yeah. And I remember you just like, I don't remember like specifics of it, but I remember you just...
I remember specifics.
Yeah, I know. Of course you do. I remember you just bumming around on acid and just being kind of weird.
Yeah.
And you were like, now I'm going to go to my room. And we're like, okay, man. And you went in your room and we're just sitting in the living room and I hear you, I hear your Xbox turn on. And then just very faintly in the other room, I hear like the opening notes of Twin Peaks start playing. And I was like, nope, absolutely not. And I got up and I went in your room and I turned your Xbox off. And I was like, awful idea, Chris. What are you, insane? And I brought you out in the living room. That was it. That was my...
Then from there, someone was like, let's take a walk. The walk didn't happen. Then someone was like, let's go get food. We left to get food. I remember Jordan stopped to get gas. And like the visual side of things started hitting me really hard. And I swear to God, I know this sounds like dumb, like some fucking deadhead bullshit or whatever, but like there was like a point where I was like, holy shit, we're getting pulled over. Like I saw the red and blue like flashing and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to sit here and act like I'm not out of my fucking mind for the first time on acid, you know? And yeah, almost like a movie or something, just like hard cut to us being from that gas station. I was cognizant enough to know that we were at least like a half mile down the road. And I was like, wait a second, weren't we just stopped by the police? And Jordan was like, what? And I was like, didn't we just get pulled over by the police? And he was like, what? And I was like, this is literally a Cheech and Chong movie. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I was embarrassed for myself. But anyways, then came home. Everybody ate Taco Bell or whatever the fuck they got and left besides me, the friend that we were letting secretly stay in the attic, and his, what do they call that? Situationship at the time. Piece. And yeah, and they were watching a Chris D'Elia stand-up special.
Weird.
Yeah, until very late, maybe 3 or 4. And then there was a point where they went upstairs to do their situationship, and I could hear all of that. And I was just downstairs. You were asleep, alone, just listening to that, losing my goddamn mind. Not because of the thing. That was just like on top of it, someone's having sex upstairs. But I was just, tripping balls, obviously. And I shaved without shaving cream, so that was awful. And then took a shower, but with my glasses off, I can't see. And so I just started hallucinating that everything was kind of like really dirty. And I felt really bad. And so then I was trying to text the friend. And they weren't answering, and then eventually he came downstairs, like the sun's up, it's like 5:36, and was just tired as hell in his underwear, like eating something and not even paying attention to me, just like telling me like, relax, you probably got like research chemicals or something like that. By this point you should be like connecting with the universe and shit like that, like you're not having a real acid trip like this,
Yeah, and this guy doesn't know shit about dicks. So.
He really doesn't. And then that made me feel even worse, obviously. And then he went to bed, and I was just like laying on a mattress on a box spring that was caved in the middle. And I was laying there, and I was like, this is fucking awful. I was doing the usual, like, just early mid-20s, like, bad acid trip where you're like, I gotta move back with my folks. This is not adult. I am not adult. What is this? And like, then I like solo. Maybe you woke up and helped me, but like we put like the box spring in the basement, and then I was like, I'm just gonna sweep the floor really good, mop it, and then throw the mattress on the ground. And I did that, and then it was just worse. I was like, oh my God, I'm sleeping on a mattress on the floor. I gotta move back with my mom, kind of a thing.
I remember this, yeah.
Then I got up and I was like, all right, Walmart's got to sell box springs. So I went to Walmart. They don't. Then I went to some mattress place. They do. Bought it for like $70.
Are you still high at this point? You should drive to Walmart?
Coming down.
Okay.
And I strap it to the top of the Prius, bring it home, slide it under the mattress. And at that point, it's like 1:30, and I have to be at the cafe that I work at.
Yeah.
So I drove 20 minutes to like Birmingham, parked my car, worked all day. The whole time, by the way, post-acid is awful, very bad. One of the worst mental states you could possibly be in my opinion. And the whole time I just kept thinking, is this what they mean by like you're never the same? Like this feeling? And I got home and I felt that way, and I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I'm a fucking idiot. Like I've ruined my brain. This is awful. This is really bad. And I couldn't sleep, and I was like, how can I not sleep? Like I've been up since like probably 8 a.m. yesterday, and it's like 10 p.m. and I gotta work in the morning. Like what the fuck? So I left, I got some melatonin from like Walmart, came back, popped the melatonin, fell asleep, woke up, and felt normal. And I was like, oh, thank God. I'm so glad that acid doesn't actually change you.
Yeah, no, I've never done acid, but I've dabbled in some psychedelics.
Yeah.
And every single time I've done it, on the come down, I'm always like, oh, this is forever.
Yeah.
This is just my life now.
Yeah.
Oh, I've ruined my brain.
Yeah.
Also, I feel that way. And also, you were talking about going to get food and stuff like that. Everybody always says, yeah, you should do it, and then you should go out somewhere. You should experience nature and do this. The idea of doing that and then leaving my house, are you out of your fucking mind? There's no, like, I can't, if I have 2 beers and I'm at a bar, I'm like, this is a problem. I need to go home now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not big on parties. That's the same thing. Like, I was trying to calm myself down yesterday at a party I was at. It was only like 8:30. I'd only been there for like half an hour. But everybody's out on the porch smoking and drinking already and just fucking screaming. And they're talking about stuff they love and like anime and this, that, and the other. And I was a little overwhelmed, and I was like trying to close my eyes and just like, breathe a little bit and relax. And the more I toned out what they were actually saying, the more that I was like, just these harsh tones. Again, I don't want to sound like a fucking deadhead. I know I just talked about doing acid, and now I'm talking about this bullshit. But I was like, even the tone of their voice is just fucking like violent. Like, this is aggressive. I don't want to be on this porch. And then I went inside and laid on like a couch for a second, looking at my phone just to calm down a little bit. And Alicia came in, and then she was all like, "Are you okay? Like, what's wrong? What's wrong?" I was like, "I'm just chilling for a second." Damn. So anyways, long story short, I don't like parties, but I love cartoons.
I also love cartoons and hate parties. Every time I'm at a party or a bar, I'll just the entire time I'm like, man, I wish I could go home.
Yeah.
And then I'll have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
And the entire time I'm talking to them, I'm like, I'd love to be at home. Love to be at home. And then the conversation ends, and I go, that was wonderful.
Yeah.
I just met a person, and they were nice and pleasant. Mm-hmm. And we had a nice conversation.
Here's what I'm
going
to say.
Go home.
I'm going to say people are great, people are nice, but where I'm at personally is like, I know probably a dozen people that I love to spend time with.
Yeah.
And I'd just rather be talking to those guys like one-on-one or 2, 3, 4, maybe a bigger group, but like I don't need to be at a house or in a bar with like 40 people I don't know and then try to make small talk about like the 1 or 2 things that we kind of maybe have in common. While 9 times out of 10, I'm not drinking because I don't really like to play around with like, oh, I'll drive home a little tipsy kind of a thing. Like that's the other thing is like, if I'm not A, in the possession of a designated driver, or B, at somewhere that I'm going to stay, then I'm probably not going to drink just because I got to get myself home later. I don't want to get a DUI.
I remember being very young in our early 20s and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's the degree to which where I understood not what being drunk was and thought like, yeah, I've sobered up enough, and probably definitely dabbled in some drunk driving, sadly. But like I said, it was more of an ignorance thing. It wasn't like oh, I could pull this off. It was like, oh yeah, I haven't drank in like 2 hours. I've been drinking a lot of water, and I've had a couple of coffees, so I think it's pretty good. But like,
I remember me and you would go to parties, and you would be like, just give me a couple hours and I'll sober up, and then we'll go.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, okay, I'm good, we can go. And I'd be like, I don't believe that. I'm not driving, so whatever, I'll get in this car.
Yeah. So, not cool, but like I said, it genuinely wasn't like, because like I have friends who legitimately are like, bro, I drive better drunk.
Yeah, fuck.
And like to sing songs about like how cool drunk driving is, or like that. Like, never been like that.
I hear it's a blast, but I would never, never like, I'd be so afraid I wouldn't be able to, I guess, enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, like I genuinely, like I'm not trying to like, rationalize it. I literally thought I was good, but like looking back now with like my understanding of alcohol, because like I really didn't start drinking until I was 20.
Same.
Because I was afraid to get in trouble with my parents, not gonna lie.
Like, people just didn't invite me places where drinking was happening when I was a teenager.
Well, yeah, same thing. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends, like even my partner is always talking about like, oh yeah, I've never drank as much as I drank in high school. I'm like, damn, dude, I was never at a function that even had alcohol.
I the first time I was drunk was my high school graduation party.
Yeah. Like I was around a lot of pot, smoked a lot of pot. I even just bumped into someone last night that knew me from going to Centerline in 9th grade. Yeah. And I was like mentioning some of the names of the people that I would hang out with, and he was like, oh, you were in that crew, like the crew or whatever. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I guess I was.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes. I was thinking about it. I was talking to one of those guys the other day, and I was thinking about it. And yeah, all we would do is we would go to the local park, we would smoke a little joint in the woods, and then we would walk to one person's house, and we would play Mortal Kombat for like 5 hours, and then we would go home, and we would do that just every single weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what happens on the weekends?
What happens on the weekends?
Cartoons.
Saturday morning, yeah.
Yeah, cartoons. Eating Soup Alone is a podcast hosted by me, Christopher Crumley, and co-hosted by Nicholas Johnson. We try our best to ramble incoherently about a handful of movies at least once a week.
Chris, what did we watch?
We watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah?
Oh, wait, hang on. Ask me again.
Chris, what did we watch?
We watched Rescue Rangers.
I did.
You want to talk about that at all?
I read about it in this, so I think.
Okay. Is that the...
I think
the noise that happens when we get mail?
I guess, yeah, let's do mail.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Who Framed Roger Rabbit? The other day I watched the new Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. It was good. I enjoyed it, and it reminded me of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So naturally, I watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit immediately afterwards. Chip and Dale should be ashamed of themselves. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Fuck so hard, it's disgusting. Just absolutely disgusting. 9 out of 10.
Yeah, so just like our listener, I also watched Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers the other day.
Yeah.
And it was like... It was weird. I don't know how to describe it. Like, they kept doing things where I was like, oh, that's clever. It's not funny. None of this is really ever funny.
Yeah.
But they do stuff where I was like, oh, that's clever. Like, they get kidnapped by the big bad boss that they're going after. And they'll, like, get out of their car somewhere, and one of them goes, where are we? And the other one goes, the valley. The uncanny valley. Like, what does that mean? And like, well, remember in like the early 2000s where CGI things looked real but not quite right? This is where they all ended up, and it's a bunch of like early 2000 CGI guys like walking into walls and stuff like that, and they got dead eyes, and I'm like, that's clever, but it's not that funny.
Yeah.
Nothing that happens in this movie is that funny. And Roger Rabbit shows up at one point.
Yeah.
For half a second, and that's fun. And then one of them's getting tortured at the end, and the guy's like looking through his tools of like torture or whatever, and he's got a bottle of dip in there, like from Roger Rabbit. So I guess it takes place in the same world. But I was like, this movie's whatever. And then I was telling you about it, and you're like, let's watch Roger Rabbit. And we watched Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, Roger Rabbit falls into that category of like things that have the nostalgia punch and value of like being in that, just that era of like, Ghostbusters, Goonies, Back to the Future. Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg are both attached to this, but ends up like falling a little bit by the wayside, like something like Dick Tracy.
Kind of, yeah.
Like
this movie feels like a cult film, but it's definitely not. Everybody loves this movie.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing.
As talked about as much as you think it would.
Yeah, because it was... I don't remember the figure, but it sounds like it was expensive, especially because I remember reading about them going over budget and shit like that, and it had to do with like not Warner Brothers, the Disney Channel. Jesus, good God, Walt Disney buying the rights to the book in like 1981 and stuff like that, and obviously you get like Robert Zemeckis on this and Steven Spielberg, so it's not a cult film, but it's so seemingly like just allowed to be what it is that it has the feeling of a cult film,
Yeah.
Even just down to little things. Like I'm not gonna lie and say that I wasn't like shocked that something. I know it came out through Touchstone, so Disney has some distance, but I was like, damn, technically a film owned by Disney, and you've got like 11-year-olds smoking cigarettes on the back of a tram. Or even just like one of the major plot lines is that Roger Rabbit's wife is getting fucked by an old guy.
No, they're playing patty cake.
That's a little, you know what I mean?
I mean, I think that's the joke, is they keep saying patty cake because you're supposed to think it's fucking... Yeah. And he shows them the pictures, and they're just playing patty cake, and Roger Rabbit's upset because they play patty cake together.
But, yeah. It's your turn. You go.
I usually ask when we do these, what's your experience with Roger Rabbit, or what's your history with it, or whatever. And I'm going to guess yours is the same as mine. I don't know. Roger Rabbit has just always existed in my life.
Yeah, I know I've seen it when I was young, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the first time I've seen it. Mm-hmm. It's just always just been there. And every like couple of years I watched it, I'm like, that was good, that was good, that was good.
Nor did I really remember anything, except for as soon as, like, the only thing I remembered, really, is as soon as Roger Rabbit was like, oh, I wrote this love letter. I was like, That's the will. It was written in invisible ink.
Yeah.
Just immediately. That came out of nowhere.
Like, I remember a lot of, like, touchstones in this movie. Like, I remember him pretending to wash dishes, but he's got Roger Rabbit. About that. Yeah, I remember that. And I remember Judge Doom at the end and stuff like that. But watching it this time, way funnier than I remember it being.
Yeah.
Like, especially, I think where this movie shines the best is the legitimate, like, love for cartoons.
Yeah. Like that opening sequence is bananas.
It's so funny. Yeah.
The animation's great. The timing's perfect.
Like, I was, like, legitimately chuckling out loud at parts.
And what a great gag at the end to be like, cut, cut, cut. It's stars, not birds.
Yeah,
it's a great joke.
And I love when the camera pans out from the fridge and you see just the kitchen, but it's practical instead of a cartoon now.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just such, like, an easy, like, transition, and I love seeing that stuff. And, like, but no, like, even, like, the cartoon itself is just run-of-the-mill, a generic cartoon.
It's basically a Tom and Jerry. Yeah.
Exactly. But it still, in its own right, is funny and does things I haven't seen in another cartoon before. Like, I don't know why. Like, he gets the pan dropped on his head, whatever, and then he's sliding on the soap, and he falls backwards into a wall and gets both hands stuck in two different light sockets.
Yeah.
That's so fucking funny to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's also a very itchy and scratchy, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
Because of how violent it is. It's, like, exponentially violent compared to some of the other ones, I feel like.
So after not having seen it in a while, what was your takeaway from watching Roger Rabbit this time?
Robert Zemeckis, you did it again.
Same. That was my takeaway. I haven't seen any other Robert Zemeckis movies besides this and the Back to the Futures, but boy, can that guy make a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, even down to little things, like there's that one scene which is just, it's like, it's so cliche it shouldn't work, but for some reason it did. Like, they're in the movie theater and he's like, Dolores, you should find yourself a good man. And she's like,
I already have.
I have a good man. I was like, damn, I'm tearing up.
Yeah, that's what I love about this movie is everybody who's not a cartoon plays this movie insanely straight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this movie is like a legitimately, like, beat for beat, a really good 40s noir detective story.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I feel like we talk about that from time to time with things like Young Frankenstein or, Airplane or Walk Hard to an extent. But one of the things that I feel like has been lost a little bit in comedy is that a lot of the times humor comes from the fact that the character themselves don't think they're outrageous or outlandish.
Yeah.
But if you play your character even a little goofy, then that kind of ends up undermining the setup. And Absolutely. I just feel like there are a lot of comedies in the last, like, 2 decades where, like, the character is just a little, like, goofy or quirky, and it kind of, like, undermines it a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, like,
you know what I'm talking about, but
yeah, exactly. Like, it doesn't feel like Bob Hoskins is in on the joke in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think of, like, Pop Star by the Lonely Island, everybody's in on the joke in that, and they're all, like, extremely heightened.
Yeah.
And I hear that movie's good. I don't remember it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But from my memory, yeah, everything's just a little too on the other side.
Yeah.
For it to really work.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I think the perfect, as far as you can go, is Dewey Cox.
Yeah.
Like, he's still a little goofy, but it feels...
But you believe him. You believe him as a guy.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
And that's just what, like, I don't have an example. I'm not trying to take anyone to task, but I just feel like when I see a comedy that doesn't land as well as it could, that's the thing that usually ends up standing out to me.
Yeah.
Is that I don't buy the character.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you mentioned that it's a good beat for beat noir film. Again, this reminds me of the thing we're always saying about, like, spoofs, which is why I brought up a couple of spoofs. This is not necessarily a spoof or whatever, but at the heart of Young Frankenstein, it's still kind of a good Frankenstein.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the other thing, like, Walk Hard or whatever. Also, same thing, like, that one's basically, it gets to be Walk the Line, so it kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not as good as Walk the Line, but still, it's pretty sound. There's nothing, awful there. But yeah, it was something that, like, I was explaining to my brother the other day, just tangentially. I know we've already touched on this, whatever, is the difference between something like Young Frankenstein and like Scary Movie or just another teen movie is at a certain point those spoofs became like, look how stupid this is, when it used to be like, hey, like more like a roast, like that thing where it's like, I'm going to take the piss out of Bob Saget, but then at the end of the roast, I also am going to be like, hey, Bob inspired me to be a stand-up. I wouldn't be on this stage right now.
Yeah, there's like still a reverence for it and stuff like that,
Yeah. And so that's I'm glad that that's intact, There are moments that are like cliche, but again, it just feels more like a love letter than like, I'm not like cringing a little bit. Like I feel like sometimes when I'm watching movies and they hit on a beat that's like cliche just for the sake of moving it forward, either A, it's done really well, or subverted and I don't notice, or sometimes it's just kind of there and I'm like, that's a little cringe. I know it has to happen here, but you guys didn't want to put any panache on it. But again, I don't know, there's just something about a Robert Zemeckis movie where they can just have that moment in the movie theater and you're just like, fuck you, Robert, I can't believe you're making me cry at this dumb movie.
I will say Bob Hoskins, the worst detective in the world. Eddie, the worst detective in the world. Like every clue he finds is just he trips over his dick and then false face flirts the clue and goes, oh. Yeah,
like it is pretty funny that he just puts his glass over the wheel and he's like, what? And he has to get a magnifying glass out. I like that. That's a funny gag. But the brother stuff is very dumb to me, but it like at no point am I ever like, oh god, I can't believe that movie's doing this, or is it like cringy? It's just that like I'm like, nah, well that has to be in there.
No, it is like a beat for beat noir detective story where like, oh, here's a mystery and then there's another mystery on top of it. And, ooh, what's going on? And at the end of the day, land development. That's what's happening. Everyone's trying to
which
get
is actually
a
very
freeway made.
Very Chinatown, which I would like to watch with you soon. But yeah, I also like the Judge Doom. Judge Doom is the one that killed the brother because it immediately, as soon as that reveal happened or whatever, which I was aware of, but as soon as the reveal happened, I was like, you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Like, that's so 89 Batman.
But, he does the thing where he leans over his glass and sees the will.
Yeah.
And then also at the movie theater, they just happen to play a part of a piece of the news where they're like, oh, this guy's doing land development. He goes, that's it.
Yeah.
I was just happened to be here at the right time, and the movies told me.
Yeah. I also like the my favorite joke of the whole thing is when Roger Ebert pulls his hand out of the fucking the handcuff, and he's like, "You mean to tell me you could have done that the whole time?" He's like, "No, I couldn't. Only when it was funniest."
Yeah, it's so good. I'm always surprised with Roger Rabbit himself not being a cartoon anywhere outside of this movie. He's perfect. He just works. I believe he's a real cartoon in the real world.
Yeah.
And he fits in perfectly with every other cartoon you see in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica Rabbit, though, makes me so unbelievably uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
She seems to be the basis, I would assume, for the Ink character in Batman Beyond. They have the same kind of like body shape and movement.
Okay, I get that.
Which is weird. And the same face kind of thing. I'd like to do a side-by-side, but not now.
It's like, everybody's always, everybody universally agrees that Jessica Rabbit's hot, and she's too hot to be a cartoon character. I don't see it.
I don't see it either. She makes me uncomfortable.
She makes me uncomfortable. Yeah. Like when she comes out at the beginning, she's doing that song, and everyone's like, oh, hubba, hubba. I'm like,
you freaks. I'm like, you little freaks.
This is gross to me. I don't like it.
It is gross. Yeah. It is definitely gross.
Those are the two notes I took during this movie. The two hands in the two electrical sockets are very funny, and Jessica Rabbit makes me uncomfortable.
So what was the point of her playing patty cake, though? What was she trying to gain out of doing that?
She was trying to get the will from him for the head of the studio, because he said if she didn't do that, he would fire Roger. So she was doing it so he would keep his job.
Okay.
She loves her husband.
Yeah. Very deeply.
Makes her laugh.
Yeah. Judge Doom, spooky guy.
Christopher Lloyd, killing it as always. Yeah, he's very spooky.
Very spooky guy.
He's also a guy named Judge Doom, and that's so over the top, but it works. I love everything about him. Yeah.
Yeah, I love his character. I love the weasels. Very funny.
The weasels are fun.
Yeah. There's so many great, like, just again, like I can only go back to the Future because I think it's like a perfect example of like how to tell a story. But I just love all the little like breadcrumbs, like how they keep talking about how like, stop laughing, you know what happened to last time, kind of a thing. And then at the end it finally comes out that they'll laugh themselves to death just because Judge Doom says that. And again, it is kind of him falling backwards into a whatever, but then, you know, he's able to beat the weasels by making them laugh to death. Which is also, again, like one of those things where, as I was saying earlier, like the kids smoking or the cheating allegations and whatnot, pretty dark too. It's also pretty dark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the dip seems believably like bad.
Yeah.
It just seems bad. Every time I see the dip, I'm like, oh, God, no.
Yeah, like even at the end where it's like that machine's just been going for 20 minutes and Eddie's walking around like sludging through it and stuff like that. I'm like, I know you're not a cartoon, but that can't be good for you. This stuff looks bad.
Yeah, stuff looks really bad. I love Acme being a real company and all the little gadgets and gizmos. The only thing I don't like is one time when Valiant's in Toontown, he's talking to Jessica Rabbit, and for some reason he has like an actual prop gun instead of them having animated it.
Yeah, it switches.
And it's weird.
Yeah.
It's just weird. And I understand that they went over budget, and that was probably like just a little thing they did to try to save a little money or something like that. But,
yeah. I noticed that here and there, like almost all the time when like a cartoon is holding something like a gun or whatever, it's a real gun.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've all seen like the behind the scenes of this where it's like it's a gun on a wire that they're moving around. But every now and then, like if the animation or like the character's moving too fast or like doing something too complicated, the gun becomes animated.
Yeah.
But it was blowing me away this whole movie where, I don't know, it's just like a weird like movie magic thing where it's like, I know that this gun is just on a pole that a guy's moving around.
Yeah.
And I can tell that, but all of this is animated so well. All the characters animated over it work so well. It's so believable. Or like even like, just like when someone picks up a cartoon and throws them or something like that, and it looks just the slightest bit off.
Yeah.
But it all looks just as off as the last thing.
Yeah.
That it just becomes like a visual like understanding that like it almost becomes the physics of this world.
Yeah.
Like this is just how it happens.
The Valiant thing happens in reverse later because Valiant takes Maroon's gun, his golden gun.
Yeah.
Leaves it in his car. Roger Rabbit takes it. When he first takes it, it's a real gun. But then when he shows up to save Judge Doom, it's animated. Then.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Which is so weird. Like, it's just interesting. But it's, like you said, it becomes the physics of the world. Yeah. Another gag that I really liked is that they did the Bugs Bunny, like, you want the drink? He's like, I don't want the drink. He's like, you want the drink. You don't want the drink. I want the drink. Now give me the drink. That's good. That was a nice tense scene. Anytime a scene's supposed to be tense, I'm tense, you know? It's just...
it's good.
Wow. So good. Also, it's just one of those movies like Back to the Future that just has so much nostalgia in it. Just something about it, like, really genuinely fills you with that Wizard of Oz wonder of just like, wow, like, for an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes, I literally forgot about my life and everyone I know, and I was just watching a movie.
Yeah, I feel like any great movie from the 80s does that perfectly.
Yeah. And it's just like it's like a third thing that like a lot of movies just don't achieve. Even great movies that I love, but there's something about a couple of movies from the 80s that just have that like Wizard of Oz kind of panache to them that just for a second make you forget, you know?
Like it has a feeling to me of like being like at Universal Studios, like on a ride or something like that, where I'm just like, oh, this world exists. It's not the real world, but I believe it, and I'm there.
Because that's the other thing is, like, you know, I'm not saying that to, like, that doesn't mean it's better than any other movie. It's just like when I'm watching something like Moonlight, which is great, never really do I forget about me or my relationship to the world or the world because it's so grounded in reality and I'm relating to it so personally. Yeah. But, you know, something like Roger Rabbit, it's literally like I'm, you know, full voyeur mode, just watching something else, you know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Something totally different. That just doesn't happen all the time, you know. Even in like a huge budget, like, you know, like, I'm struggling to think of anything great that also achieves something like it. But the example I'm thinking of is like Avatar. Like, even though it is such a wild world, I never get the feeling of like it being real. Yeah. But the reason why I didn't want to give that as an example is because like I wanted to give an example of something that's good, but also I still have one foot on the ground. So I can't think of anything right now. But
yeah, it's just like this movies like it, like what we're talking about, it's just for lack of a better term, and I know I say this all the time, it's just magic.
Yeah.
Like every time I watch this movie or Back to the Future or something, or Ghostbusters or something along those lines, it just transports you to another world. Where a lot of movies I can watch and I can get transfixed, and like the whole like thing about movies being like a small ego death and like you're part of it now. I get that all the time, but something like this, I'm just like, oh fuck, exactly like you were saying, nothing else in the world exists except for Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
It reminds me of
90 minutes.
Yeah, it reminds me of that thing we talk about sometimes with like just like the well-oiled machine that was the production companies and the studios in the 80s of just like, let's crank out a movie and we're gonna make like 12 in a year. But it also has like a hint of that like just golden age, like and this is not necessarily golden age, but like Rod Serling like cranking out just like 40 episodes of the Twilight Zone in every season, right?
Yeah.
Even though he's making an episode a week, he's still taking the time and killing himself because he wants people to like it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with like these movies in the 80s that were just cranked out in no time for whatever and then on to the next one. There's something about like movies since that era that get that same treatment but without the I want people to watch it. It seems like it's just like, oh, people are going to watch it because this is Spawn. People are going to watch it because this is Captain America. Not to deride the Marvel movies. Those are all fine films. I'm just saying that, like, I feel like, you know, even something like, there was the Machine Gun Kelly movie that just came out. Yeah. Called Good Morning, but morning spelled with a U.
I figured.
Yeah, and the whole plot of the movie is just that like he gets a text in the morning that says good morning with a U or something like that, and he perceives that as she's breaking up with him, so he spends the whole movie under that assumption only to find out at the end of the day that it was a typo. That's a movie that entirely is about to, you know, make whatever money it makes just because, oh, Machine Gun Kelly made a movie. You know what I mean?
I'm mad.
Not a great example.
Yeah.
Not a great example, but you know what I mean? Even like something like those Bruce Willis movies that keep getting cranked out. Like they get cranked out because people are going to buy this because it's Bruce Willis. And I'm not mad about it. I'm not trying to be like stingy. I'm just saying like that's the thing that has changed about the let's crank out a movie is like I felt like, or I feel like in the 80s and some of the surrounding decades or whatever, that thing where like you were cranking it out, but again, you were just conscious of like, if nobody sees it though, I don't have a job.
Yeah, no,
So I have to still make this good. Like that's why things are cliche is because like they were like, we have to hit this beat because people won't like it if this doesn't happen now.
Yeah.
And you're just smoking cigarettes and staying up all night. Like we got to make a movie people would like a little bit.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll disagree with you on is like those Bruce Willis movies.
Yeah.
Those were still happening in the 80s.
Oh, for sure.
But they were shitty B movies.
Yeah.
The thing that's so wild about those Bruce Willis movies, they call them geezer teasers.
Yeah.
Is that they are those. They're like the shitty B movie, like straight to VHS shit from the 80s.
Yeah.
But the people making them have money. They have a decent amount of money. Not enough to make a big budget movie that gets played in theaters, but they have enough to hire Bruce Willis and then use the remaining $500,000 to make the rest of the movie. And that sucks. I didn't have anywhere else to go from there. But no, I know what you mean. Like like big budget like studio movies now, unfortunately, that aren't Marvel movies are exactly what you're saying. Like we just have to get a movie out.
Yeah, we have to get a couple of names to get asses in seats, and that'll be enough to either break even or make a little bit extra, and that's all we need.
Yeah, I feel like
it's like survival mode almost or something.
Yeah, I feel like there are three type of movies now. There are Marvel movies. There are those shitty studio we have to shit out a movies, which are either in theaters or straight to streaming. And then there are like the A24s of the world.
Yeah, which I will also encompass to like have a B part of just like passion projects that just get made for some reason. Like,
yes,
you know, something like Suicide Squad or something, or even something, you know, like Deadpool, where like someone was just like Ryan Reynolds for like 15 years, just like, I want to make a Deadpool movie. Let me make a Deadpool movie. But there are other things that get encompassed in that, not just superhero movies.
Okay, because I was going to say I'd put those into the Marvel movie category, but
I'm just talking about the thing where it's like one guy that like just wants to make this thing, and like finally someone's like, whatever, go make your thing, and then it works out great.
Yes. And I like it and I hate it because, we don't really get that many Roger Rabbits anymore. But also, in the 80s, we would probably never get, like, The Lighthouse, So it does suck that, like, the big budget studio movies suck. But it's cool that we get, like...
Yeah, I mean, that's just how things are. I'm just calling it like I see it. There are pros and cons to both.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It's just that... Excuse me. You just objectively don't get Back to the Future or Who Framed Roger Rabbit anymore.
Yeah,
that was something... And you didn't really get it before either. That's just something that happened in the 80s.
Yeah, you don't get, like, a legitimately well-made, good movie that everybody sees anymore.
Other than the Marvel stuff.
Yeah. And those are fine.
Yeah.
Like, I do love them. I'll go see every single one of those fucking things. But for the most part, they're fine.
I wonder what it'll be next.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's no way to tell. I mean, literally, there's no indication of where
I think about it all the time. I'm sure everybody does.
But what happens when the Marvel ship
the bottom's going to fall out of that.
Yeah.
Sooner or later. I have
I mean, at this point, it's been going since 2007?
2008.
2008?
I have no conceivable idea of when it's going to happen. Like, I remember once they released, like, because they do it every year, they give a timeline of what's coming next.
I remember getting that shit in, like, 2018 and being like, damn, dude, they got this shit planned out till 2024?
Yeah, like, no, I remember seeing, like, the first one of those that they did that, like, led up to, like, they released it in, like, I don't know, like, right after the Avengers 2, I think. And it led up until, like, probably right now.
Yeah.
Being like, ooh, they're done for. They're doing too much.
There's no way they're going to make it to Black Widow.
Yeah, I know. It's 10 years later, and they're still going very strong.
Very strong, yeah.
And I think it's mainly because the big budget studio movies like Moonfall are dog shit.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have anyone making movies that, like, have any, like, real heart to them, so they suck.
Yeah.
Like, when you got Back to the Future or Ghostbusters in the 80s, it was like what we were talking about with James Gunn. It's like, yeah, these feel like movies made by a person.
Yeah.
Instead of just a big gross CGI fest, which isn't to say anything about CGI. I love visual effects and visual effects artists and stuff like that, and those guys are always killing it in those movies.
Yeah.
But I feel like the movies themselves, and of course I haven't seen Moonfall, so I can't really judge it, but I feel like I can judge it without seeing it.
Yeah.
Or like any The Rock movie, or like just any of those movies. They just kind of suck.
Yeah, I'd like to see Everything Everywhere All at Once or whatever that one is.
Me too. I've been meaning to for a really long time.
People have been talking about that a lot.
I hear it's a movie you got to see in a movie theater.
So all respect to that, even though I haven't seen it yet. But
hey, us, the two guys of the movie podcast, we should go see that soon.
I think it might be pretty much on its way to home at this point.
I'd like to go see it in a theater if I can.
Yeah.
Every day after work, I go, I should stop at the movie theater and see a movie before I go home. I should go see Everything Everywhere All at Once before I go home. And then I don't, because I'm tired. I'm like, I'm going to fall asleep during this movie.
And I'm not mad at anybody in particular or anything like that. It's just, like I said, I think movies are just in survival mode right now because streaming is literally eating them alive. So if anything, I feel bad. But and that's the other thing.
Better movies than maybe that won't happen.
I'm just thinking of movies like Arrival or After Earth or Passengers or like, just these, or like Battlefield Earth or Battle for Los Angeles, or whatever, all those like things that's just like.
Okay, Roland Emmerich directed Moonfall. That's a bummer.
Who?
Roland Emmerich. He directed Independence Day. But actually, looking at his IMDb, he's directed basically just a bunch of movies that are Independence Day, including Moonfall. Yeah. So, fuck him. Fuck you, Roland Emmerich. I said it.
But back to Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You know what's an absolute travesty?
What's that?
That I was thinking about watching it. You get that scene where Donald Duck and Daffy Duck are playing the pianos. Great scene. And then you get the very, very short moment where Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny are there with the parachutes.
Such a great scene. I love that. Give him the spare.
Yeah.
It's a spare tire, and then he's like, ain't I a stinker?
I think it's an absolute travesty that the Looney Tunes basically don't exist anymore. Like, they do here and there, but every time I see a Looney Tunes cartoon, or especially watching this movie, so sad that Disney won out.
Yeah.
Like, the Disney characters are basically just mascots now. Like, they're not making a lot of Mickey Mouse cartoons. But fuck, the Looney Tunes are so good, Chris.
Yeah.
They're just like, compared to like every Disney cartoon I've seen, which is fun. The Looney Tune ones are, just for a lack of a better term,
better.
So punk rock.
Yeah.
They're so good. They make me legitimately laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Like, every now and then when I'm getting ready for work in the morning, I will find like a YouTube channel that just has like an 8-hour block of Looney Tunes cartoons, and I'll just watch them in the morning. They make me so happy.
Yeah.
It just comes down to basically that Bugs Bunny sketch in this, where he gives him the spare, and it's a spare tire, and he goes, "Ain't I a stinker?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I'm like, hey, yeah. I'm like, yeah, you are a stinker, Bugs. I love it. And it makes me laugh every time, and it's so good.
This is a non sequitur that has nothing to do with anything, but it's also interesting to see, like, I feel like I can just see trends sometimes. Like, I can see, like, you know, the popularity of the 40s throughout the 90s for some reason with things like Goodfellas,
the revival of swing music.
Yeah, the revival of swing music, LA Confidential, all of the movies about like World War II and stuff that would continue into the early aughts. And then same thing, like, you know, you have something like, I'm sure there are things before this, but I'm just hitting the ones that are coming to mind right offhand. But you got like Who Framed Roger Rabbit rolling into, I can attest to throughout my childhood, like Looney Tunes was the morning cartoon block for Cartoon Network every morning. And then, you know, you also have like Space Jam, right? And so like it's just like these two undercurrents that are just running through, you know, a lot of media throughout the 90s into the early to mid aughts for some reason. Just interesting.
And hopefully, because the 90s are big now, from what I get,
we'll get another swing revival.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. Is I just want doo-wop. You know?
I want to buy a zoot suit.
Yeah, but no, everybody dresses like the 90s now.
I want to get into organized crime.
Yeah, hopefully the 40s come back now because it was big in the 90s.
Why can't I knock off a cigarette truck with a couple of guys and then sell them illegally throughout?
All I want,
tax free,
is for Bugs Bunny to be back and to smoke cigarettes on the back of a train with some elementary school kids.
America. We haven't talked about the car yet. Benny's great. I love Benny. That's something that Valiant falls ass backwards into too. But the seed is planted where he's like, all you gotta do is throw out your thumb if you need a ride. And he's like pointing like this or whatever. And then Benny's like, hey, I got you, buddy. You know, saves him later. It's good.
I love Benny's got one of my favorite lines in the movie where he does a thing where he extends up because they pulled the lever or whatever. And Roger and Valiant are talking and blah, 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 and they're about to hit a bridge. And he goes, Roger, what do you call the middle of a song? He goes, I don't know. I think you call it a bridge. It's great. It's very funny.
That's pretty good.
Classic cartoon shit.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh.
Yeah.
It's like Clue. It's the reason I love this movie is just the same reason I love Clue. Just slapstick shit when it's done really well. It just gets me. I remember growing up and thinking like growing up, I mean like teenage, early 20s. Being like, just something about that stuff just didn't get me, and it felt childish. But now as I'm getting a bit older, just good cartoon, good vaudeville, like Three Stooges, just kind of shit. Just gets me. It makes me laugh. Like I enjoyed that when we watched The Evil Dead the other day. Yeah, and I'd like to watch The Evil Dead too because I feel like those things are very, very slapstick when they want to be. And it just, I don't know, something about the humor. Like when I'm watching it, I'm like, this is dumb, but it's dumb done so well. It gets me. It just gets me.
Yeah, I would like to check out some of the Marx Brothers stuff. Yeah. Primarily because
they hang out with Frankenstein sometimes.
Because Harmony Korine, huge, like unbelievable nerd for that. Just out of control nerd for that. One of the times that he was on Letterman, that was something that him and Letterman were kind of semi-bonding on because they didn't really get along, but they were having a nice chat about that. You know, just talking about some of their favorite bits and who's your favorite Marx brother and stuff and yada yada yada.
Yeah, no, I've never really like given it a good dive, and I'd like to. I feel like I'd really benefit from it. I think I'd really enjoy it. But every time I hear somebody like recite like an old vaudeville gag, it really gets me. Look, the one I always think of off the top of my head is like, I can't think of the guy's name who does it, but I think it was like played on the radio a lot, but I think he did it. No, I think it was just like a radio sketch where like you hear someone go, "Hey, give me all your money." And you hear, "Yikes, a robber." And he goes, "You heard me, punk. It's your money or your life." And there's just this big, unbelievably long silence. And he goes, didn't you hear me? I said your money or your life. And he goes, I'm thinking. Like, that's great. That's so good.
That is really good. The reason why I thought about it was because someone on the X-Files subreddit posted a link to a Marx Brothers skit that like I didn't know the X-Files were paying homage to. I'm pretty sure the gag is that there is no mirror, but two actors are pretending to mirror each other, kind of a thing.
Yeah, no, that came from one of those. Yeah,
yeah.
You see that all the time in cartoons.
Yeah, and the X-Files does the entire routine in one of the episodes for whatever reason.
And yeah, that's why I want to see this so bad, is because all these old Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry, they're just doing that. Yeah. They're just drawing Marx Brothers bits, basically.
Well, yeah, and like I said, even up until today, like even the X-Files is still paying homage back to that thing, and even people like Harmony Korine, huge fans of that kind of stuff. Interesting. I feel like I give this movie an A.
Oh yeah, I'd give this movie an A.
I feel like it's a solid A.
I'm gonna give it an A+.
Wow. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
But anyways, I really got to get to head in the podcast, so that is that, Mattress Man.
Oh, okay, sorry.
If you need more soup, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to our website, eatingsoupalone.com. And until next time,